Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's show. Well, you know what? Trump was right. Again, this is huge. The appeals court from Trump's New York hush money trial are saying that the trial should never have happened. The evidence cannot be used. They targeted Trump. It's all falling to pieces. This is huge. Trump was right. It was a sham trial for the New York hush money case, and the appeals court is literally saying this. We also have it where Trump's team is releasing bombshell news about the scandal in the White House over the drug cocaine that was found. We have news now over the coverage of people getting promotions so that they would be kept quiet. The cover-up, the censorship on social media, and all of it coming out so that nothing could be tied to Biden. It's all a huge cover-up, but now we have the leaked info, and Trump and Johnson are going after them. This is huge. On top of that, the House Judiciary Committee just dropped a bombshell saying that the administration has made it virtually impossible to prevent non-citizens from registering to vote. So with everything that they've done, they've been planning this for a long time. We have all the details for you in just a moment. This is a huge day. Just want to say thank you to everybody that's watching. If you're not subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you don't mind, click the thumbs up like button. Oh, sorry, y'all. Oh, it really does help to grow the channel, the thumbs up button. And just want to say thank you to all of the new members of the channel. We already have Jennifer Wolber, who has joined the family today. Remember, the link is in the description to join. And just want to say thank you to everybody that blesses us, this channel, with a super chat donation. Want to give a shout out to Nancy Gorashankar. Hopefully I said that right, but thank you so much. We appreciate you. But let's get into this news because this is Trump called it. The Democrats tried to target him, but this is now out. Check this out.
There are new doubts about Trump's New York civil fraud conviction. Justices in a New York appeals court appear skeptical of the conviction and that huge $480 million penalty. They say nobody claimed to be harmed. Former acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker joins us now. Matthew, tell me about what the appeals court justices were saying, because it sounds like this case is just falling to pieces.
Right there.
Yeah, Stuart, and we talked about some of these issues previously when this case was decided on summary judgment, and then the judge ultimately assessed this massive fine, and that is that there was no one that was harmed, that it was just a commercial transaction where both sides finished the transaction happy and satisfied. The bank got their money, the loan was made, and I think the appeals court was very skeptical that this was even in Letitia James as Attorney General's jurisdiction to bring a case like this. And then on top of that...
Look at the title at the bottom. New York Appeals Court questions Trump's $480 million penalty. They're looking at this and saying, it was all targeted. There's no basis. Why did y'all even bring this up? I love it. Trump totally called this out.
Obviously, they thought this fine was excessive and way over the top compared to any potential harm that happened.
The case just be completely thrown out or adjusted? I mean, a smaller penalty, whatever.
Yeah, so there was a 5-judge panel, and obviously it's going to be the vote of the majority to decide, because I think there are some judges that felt it was way too much of a fine on the one hand, and then there's some that were just thought the basis in law was not there, and this case should be dismissed. And so I think it's going to be very interesting where 3 of those judges out of the 5 come out on that.
That is
I want to talk about New York City, the mayor, Eric Adams, criminal charges. I'm sure you've read the charges. Would you define this as a strong or weak case against him?
Yeah, it's probably comparatively a weak case. I think some of the solicitation of illegal campaign contributions are probably the stronger counts. You know, the counts about the quid pro quo and the scam that voters can't stand when elected politicians do where they get benefits for official action, I think is a little weaker. But remember, Eric Adams has said the whole time that these are politically motivated charges, that the Biden Department of Justice brought these because he had criticized the situation he was facing in New York City with the illegal immigration and how it was impacting the city of New York.
Now, if you didn't know, the DOJ is going after Adams. Adams criticized publicly the immigration policy of Biden. The head of the DOJ answers to Biden and has to get his approval on these types of things. Let me know if this is targeted, because this is crazy. Mayor Adams was a part of Biden's and Harris's team in 2020, their campaign team.
Well, Adams says he's going to fight. He's going nowhere. He's staying in this game. He's staying in the race. He's staying as mayor of New York. That means, with his administration, I would say, largely crippled with the departure of the police chief and the education guy and the top counsel, that means we've got a chaotic government in New York for at least the next year, at a time when we can least afford it.
Wow.
No, that's a great point. And I think, mayors obviously handle the day-to-day, whether it's picking up trash, enforcing the laws, keeping the streets clean, all of the small things that city government does, mayor sits on top of that. And to have him this distracted with federal charges, I think is going to be very difficult for him to continue to run the city effectively.
May I just go back to the Trump fraud case and the skepticism by the appeals court justices? They're really passing judgment on New York's judicial system, aren't they?
Yes.
And it's a bad judgment at that.
Yeah, so remember at the time this case was going on, it looked like a real specious claim to come in after the fact and to say that somehow fraud had occurred when nobody was complaining of, losing money or being defrauded. And I think all along there was this skepticism that the trial judge, Engoron, and Letitia James, as the Attorney General, had kind of railroaded Donald Trump to try to score cheap political points and to do this before the election. This panel, which was sort of asking very basic questions about the fundamental basis for these charges and for these claims, I think dismantled the case pretty effectively. I think it's going to have a hard time surviving, especially at the almost $500 million penalty level that it currently stands.
That's ridiculous.
This is huge. And this is not the only breaking news today. So we also got the breaking news over the cover-up that's happening with the White House, with the drugs that were found there, and all the things that are happening with that. Check this out. But do want to say thank you to Winnie Grinoval for the super chat. Everybody, show Winnie some love in the chat.
Don't surprise anyone, but I've got this from a very, very deep inside source with the Secret Service. So apparently, folks, there are so many people in the Forensic Services Division of the Secret Service relative to the size of the detail that know about the cocaine scandal and the pressure that's been put by the Biden White House and Mayorkas to make the evidence go away. And I'll get to that part in a second. That now, according to my source, who is about as unimpeachable on the matter as you could possibly imagine, there are now being promotions handed out to a number of people to silence them about what they know about the efforts to make the cocaine evidence go away. Now, my source is pretty clear that these promotions are likely tied to what they know about the cocaine scandal at the White House. He is just not sure. Producer Justin asked me this morning, well, what's happening? Are subordinates saying to their bosses, hey, either promote me or I'm going to go to the press about the cocaine and the White House scandal and the pressure and what we know about it? Or are supervisors promoting people who know to kind of lock them in to say, hey, man, you took the promotion and you knew about it and you didn't say anything, so now you're part of the scandal, so you need to shut up too. He's not sure about what direction they're going in. But he's absolutely sure that there is a tie between what they know about the cocaine scandal and promotions. New promotions are coming out. It has a lot to do with the Forensic Services Division. Now, why? Because the Forensic Services Division that does, obviously, forensic services and analysis in the Secret Service are the ones who have custody over the cocaine baggie. And apparently that cocaine baggie has identifying, they want to make that evidence go away. You can surmise who that may be, and I wouldn't automatically jump to Hunter Biden either. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying it is someone that is going to be a major scandal that Biden and the DHS want to make that baggie go away. So I said I'd get back to it. According to the source, there is massive pressure by Ron Rowe, the acting director, and former director Kim Cheadle, who resigned. There was massive pressure to make this. I'm going to give you some quotes from the whistleblower, just so you exact quotes. So I don't want to be accused of misconstruing what he said. They are, quote, under a lot of pressure to, quote, tie up loose ends on the cocaine scandal and, quote, to destroy the cocaine evidence before Trump takes the White House.
Wow.
Which at this point looks like there's a pretty good shot, nothing definitive, no red wave talk. However, they're getting really worried they may lose now, and that if this comes out, it's going to make the Biden administration look even worse than they look now when they find out whose cocaine this really was. So again, they're under a lot of pressure from Secret Service management, Rowe and former director Cheadle, who pressured, according to my whistleblower, people in FSD to destroy the baggie. Rowe and Cheadle would apparently under pressure from Mayorkas, who's under pressure from the Biden White House, to tie up loose ends and destroy the cocaine evidence before Trump gets in there, who's going to blow the doors off this whole thing.
I'm telling you, y'all.
Folks, just when you thought the corruption in the Biden White House between Ukraine Gate, the Moscow mayor story, the Rosemont Seneca, the Privat Bank story, the pressuring of Ukrainians to fire people to hide evidence of Hunter Biden family malfeasance, the Chinese Communist Party connections, the Kamala Harris scandals that have happened over and over and over again. Ladies and gentlemen, it only gets worse. You heard it here first. I'm telling you, the source is unimpeachable. Of course, the media people, let me just prep you. The media folks, what's going to happen, guys? In a week or a month, they'll report this story and they'll say, breaking news. The truth is, honestly, I really don't care.
It all happened. You heard it here first, y'all. Now, I know that we got to get Dan Bongino on here for y'all because, again, too, he has connections. He knows people, and he knows, like you said, these unimpeachable people. But this is on top of this, so there's more stuff that's happening behind the scenes. But check this out, because to me, this is the truth of what's actually going on. Behind the scenes in Congress, they're going after them because they want to get the truth. Check this out.
The weaponized
No, sir.
information.
No, sir. The court found specifically, it's a finding of fact that is not disputed by the government defendants, the Biden administration, your agency, the FBI, or DHS, not in the litigation. They determined you and all of your cohorts made no distinction between domestic speech and foreign speech. So don't stand there and tell me under oath that you only focused on adversaries around the world. I have to be honest and tell you, I'm not sure exactly what you do at the Department of Homeland Security other than great harm. On your watch, the data is pretty clear. We've had record levels of illegal immigration, a rapid decline in deportations, skyrocketing fentanyl deaths across our country. And the Secret Service, which is a DHS component, can't determine who left cocaine at the White House. In the middle of all this, you created this Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency, CISA, which is a division of DHS. And it's one of the Biden administration agencies that colluded with and coerced the social media companies to censor Americans' protected free speech online.
Remember, Mark Zuckerberg just came out and just admitted all this stuff of, yes, I was pressured by the Biden administration to go in by the FBI to censor certain stories and things like that. And I just want to say that I shouldn't have done. Like, he admitted to that. So now, as these people are standing before oath, this is where we hold them accountable.
Specifically detailed in a 155-page court opinion that came out of the federal court in Louisiana in the landmark litigation of Missouri v. Biden. Have you read that court opinion?
Congressman, I have not, and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency does not censor speech.
Okay, well, the court found otherwise. And it's really curious to me, actually it's quite alarming that you haven't read the opinion, because your agency is listed in this opinion. The federal court looked at volumes of evidence over months of litigation, and they determined, among other things, that If the allegations made by the plaintiffs, the states in this case, are true, and hold on, the preliminary injunction was granted against your agency, sir, and other Biden administration agencies, including the DOJ and FBI, the court said it involves the most massive attack against free speech in United States history. And you're telling me this opinion issued July 4th has not reached your desk? No one's briefed you on it?
Well, I have been briefed on the Missouri litigation.
Okay, but you haven't taken the time to read it yet.
Congressman,
no, hold on. Have you read it or not?
I have read parts of it.
Oh, parts of it. Did you read the parts where it said that this is Orwellian and dystopian and that your agency is involved in a massive cover-up of specifically conservatives' free speech online?
Congressman, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency is not involved in such conduct.
Okay, well, the court found otherwise, and you stand here under oath and you give us these answers that we know are not true because this is demonstrably untrue. I'm suggesting to you that you're saying things to us under oath that are proven by the record to be untrue. Let me ask you about this.
I'm telling you this, if this isn't a cover-up, if this isn't trying to protect the Biden administration, right here, the courts prove this dude is lying under oath that he should be held in contempt. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
CISA was created to, we call it the Misinformation and Disinformation Subcommittee of CISA. You familiar with that?
Congressman,
the MDM subcommittee, you're familiar with that?
Congressman, I am very well aware of the threat of disinformation emanating from adverse nations.
Are you familiar with the subcommittee? Just answer the question.
I am.
Okay. Does it still exist?
Congressman, are you speaking of the...
Does the MDM subcommittee still exist?
I would have to get back to you on that.
Okay. All right. Kind of a big deal in your agency. I'm kind of shocked that you don't know the answer to that. Can you define what misinformation is?
Congressman, misinformation is false information that is disseminated to...
Excellent. Who determines what is false?
Right there.
Congressman, our focus...
No, who determines what is false in your agency? If you're going to pull something off the internet and collude with a social media platform to make sure Americans don't see it, who determines what's false?
Congressman, we don't do that.
That's not true. That is not true. That is not what the court has found. This is not a Republican talking point. This is what the documents show. We've had people testify under oath that say, and you just defined the term, you're telling me that you don't know who determines what is false?
Congressman, what we do at CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, is identify the tactics that adverse nation states use to weaponize disinformation.
Okay, what is disinformation? What is disinformation?
Disinformation is inaccurate information.
Who determines what's inaccurate? Who determines what's false? Do you understand the problem here? The reason the framers of our Constitution did not create an exception for quote-unquote false information from the First Amendment is because they didn't trust the government to determine what it is.
Ooh.
And you have whole committees of people in your agency trying to determine what they define as false or misinformation.
That is not true.
Well, then what is true? Please enlighten us.
What we do is we disclose the tactics that adverse nation states are utilizing to weaponize information.
No, sir. The court found specifically it's a finding of fact that is not disputed by the government defendants, the Biden administration, your agency, the FBI, or DHS, not in the litigation. They determined you and all of your cohorts made no distinction between domestic speech and foreign speech. So don't stand there and tell me under oath that you only focused on adversaries around the world, foreign actors. That's not true.
Congressman, the Missouri case, the litigation to which you refer, is the subject of continuing litigation.
But the facts were not disputed, and I so regret that I'm out of time. I hope I get...
Man, I tell you what, I'm telling you, you don't think there's an attack on free speech? One of the biggest persons ever out there who's literally just came out. They're not even trying to hide this crap anymore, y'all. You have to listen to this guy who literally says that the First Amendment, our right to free speech, is a roadblock for censorship and that we need to get rid of it. Listen to this.
The dislike of and anguish over social media is just growing and growing and growing. And it's part of our problem, particularly in democracies, in terms of building consensus around any issue. It's really hard to govern today. You can't, there's no, the referees we used to have to determine what's a fact and what isn't a fact have kind of, been eviscerated to a certain degree. And people go and then people self-select. where they go for their news or for their information. And then you just get into a vicious cycle. So it's really, really hard, much harder to build consensus today than at any time in the 45, 50 years
that?
I've been involved in this.
What he basically just said is it's really hard to control people, to build consensus, to have our story be the one that everybody believes. Now, listen to this.
And there's a lot of discussion now about how you curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have, some accountability on facts, et cetera. But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So what you need.
Do you see this? This is from the World Economic Forum. This is John Kerry. This is a person who has a lot of influence when it comes to the Democratic Party. This is one of the people that tells you that it's bad for you to drive your car. You need to move to electric because it's killing the environment and, all the global warming. Yeah, he has no problem taking a jet to all around the country and overseas and whatnot. But he just literally said, this is what is happening behind the scenes. But now that we're hearing it, they want to get rid of the First Amendment because it's a roadblock for the government to try to censor people, try to censor free speech. This is what we got to be careful of. This is why we have to vote the right way for freedom. Not only that, the House Judiciary Committee lays out a bombshell on the Biden administration over non-citizens voting because they're trying to control everything. Check this out.
The subcommittee, thank you for holding this hearing. I'm Rosemary Jenks, co-founder and policy director of the Immigration Accountability Project, IAP. As the name implies, we focus exclusively on immigration policy and how it impacts America, including our elections. IAP is also a founding member of the Only Citizens Vote Coalition. As you know, the Immigration and Nationality Act makes an alien who falsely claims U.S. citizenship, for example, by registering to vote, or who illegally votes, inadmissible to the United States and deportable from the United States. 18 U.S.C. 611 also makes it a federal crime for a non-citizen to vote in a federal election. Based on data from the Census Bureau and the Department of Homeland Security, we estimate that there are currently around 30 million non-citizens residing in the United States. The open borders policies of the Biden-Harris administration have added at least 7.5 million of these non-citizens on top of regular legal immigration in just the last almost 4 years. Obviously, this massive population of non-citizens would have no impact whatsoever on our elections if they were securely prevented from voting. However, the requirements of the 1993 Voter Registration Act, or Motor Voter Law, and the 2002 Help America Vote Act make it virtually impossible to prevent non-citizens from registering to vote, either accidentally or intentionally.
Did you hear that? So not only do we have around 37 million non-citizens in the United States, because laws that have been put in place, she literally just said before Congress, before the House Judiciary Committee, it's virtually impossible to prevent non-citizens from registering to vote. And then it's impossible to catch them because we're not even allowed to ask for a proof of citizenship. Listen to what she says next.
Neither a driver's license nor a social security number provides proof of U.S. citizenship. All 50 states and the District of Columbia issue driver's licenses, including real IDs, to lawfully present non-citizens, while 19 states also issue driver's licenses to illegal aliens.
Do you hear that? 19 states issue driver's licenses to illegal aliens in the United States. 19.
Moreover, every alien who is authorized to work in the United States is eligible for an SSN. The Biden-Harris administration has been handing out work authorization documents like candy to inadmissible aliens, with SSN issuances following close behind. So we have federal voter laws that do not require proof of citizenship to register to vote, combined with a massive population of non-citizens with valid driver's licenses and SSNs. When you add to that President Biden's unprecedented Executive Order 14019, along with the huge network of NGOs receiving billions of dollars in federal, state, and local funding to provide services to the millions of illegal aliens being released into our country by the Biden-Harris administration, you have a recipe for fraud. There are strong indications
Right here.
that some of these NGOs are providing the aliens with voter registration forms. For example, the
100%.
contract New York City signed with an NGO called Homes for the Homeless to provide migrant housing includes a requirement that the NGO, quote, provide and distribute voter registration forms to all persons.
So this is how messed up it is. NGO is a nonprofit for the government, if you didn't know that. So they have this Homes for the Homeless, where they are giving taxpayer dollars to illegal migrants to give them homes. Sorry, homeless veterans. But they're taking that money, but they literally have it stated that they are required to give them a registration form to vote. Why would it be in that bill, in that form, for them to get this money, for them to be given a form to vote from the government if they did not want them to vote? This whole thing is a screw up. This whole thing is a cluster that Democrats have pushed and pushed and pushed to try to get more votes because they can't appeal to the American citizen anymore.
End quote. Imagine you're a new arrival to the United States with limited English proficiency. If a government official, whether at the DMV or some other agency or an NGO paid by the government to take care of you, hands you a form and says, just check this box and sign your name, you're probably going to comply. And as soon as you do, you are guilty of a deportable criminal offense. You have essentially been entrapped into a criminal act by a government agency or NGO acting either with indifference or with nefarious purpose. Do we at IAP believe that millions of non-citizens are going to show up at polling locations to vote in November? No, but some surely will.
Yes.
The problem...
And you don't need millions. Remember, these swing states are only won by thousands of votes. That's the problem that a lot of people don't see, and that's why they don't get it, that we need to have proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections, because there's over 37 million non-citizens. Think about it. If just 1% of those people, 1% of 37 million is what? 370,000. If just 1% of those non-citizens vote, then they turn the elections in a certain way.
Is that once a non-citizen's name is on the voter roll, that name can be attached to a ballot and voted. In states that automatically mail ballots to registered voters,
the mail-in
ballots
ballots
will be mailed to whatever address the non-citizen provided, whether it's the address of a migrant shelter, a hotel, a homeless shelter, or a residence. What will happen to that ballot and others like it? Will it be harvested, filled out, placed in a drop box? Opponents of requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote, including every Democrat on this subcommittee, dismiss those who support it by saying it is already illegal for non-citizens to vote. But they know non-citizens, including illegal aliens, do register and vote. Otherwise, why would H.R. 16, the amnesty bill that all the Democrats on this subcommittee have co-sponsored, explicitly allow DHS to waive illegal voting for amnesty applicants?
Wow. Did you hear that? So the bill that the Democrats all co-sponsored, I can't believe I'm about to say this. So the bill that all the Democrats co-sponsored, they literally have a provision in there that if they're seeking amnesty, that they're allowed to vote. What have they been telling all these people that have been coming in? Why are you coming? We'll tell them to seek asylum so that way they can just get into our country. What did Harris just say? We need to grant mass amnesty to these people. So if they're seeking amnesty, they're allowed to vote in our elections. This is all by design, everybody.
H.R. 3194, an amnesty bill that 3 of the Democrats on this subcommittee have co-sponsored and the Biden-Harris administration wrote, automatically waive both illegal voting and false claims to citizenship. Why is it okay if even one American citizen's vote is canceled by an illegal vote? What if it's your vote? It's time to pass.
This is we're in a bad spot right now and just like I told you yesterday with Elon Musk and what he stated, that as soon as in I believe it was 1993 when California passed or 1983, I think it was 1983, when they set up themselves as a sanctuary state, they've been blue ever since. They bring people in, they give them all types of taxpayer benefits, and then they usher them to vote Democrat, and that's why California's been as blue as it's been. And this, to me, this is just heartbreaking because these are politicians playing politics to stay in office, have their way, and they're stepping over citizens to do it. And not only that, we've got an update for you on the Trump assassination attempt and what's going on with that. Because I'm telling you, if you don't see it, you wouldn't believe it. Check this out.
President Trump's second assassination attempt was just in federal court. Ryan Ruth just pled not guilty to a new charge of attempted assassination of a presidential candidate.
You got
His court appearance comes as Attorney General Merrick Garland defends releasing Ruth's letter, where he offered a $150,000 bounty on the former president. David Spunt is...
And I'll say that is about the stupidest thing that the DOJ could ever have done. Ever.
Live in Washington with the latest. David.
Hi, Emily. Good afternoon. This was a quick court appearance for Ryan Ruth. As you mentioned, he pleaded not guilty. His defense team asked that the indictment not be reread. That was his right, that he does not have to hear that indictment read. So this is going toward a jury trial. He could face up to the rest of his life behind bars for this serious charge of attempted assassination of a presidential candidate. Now, you mentioned that letter from Attorney General Merrick Garland that's on the docket, the letter from Ryan Ruth, I should say, the suspect in this case. It was put on the docket a couple of weeks ago. It's in Ruth's hand, and Attorney General Merrick Garland says it's simple. I asked him about this on Friday. He says the DOJ filed the Ruth letter image for the public to see on the docket to try and keep him behind bars to show his intentions. Ultimately, it worked. A judge ordered him detained, and he is detained pending trial.
Wow.
Now, Ruth's probable cause hearing ended.
So, this is, guys, I just can't. Merrick Garland, the head of the DOJ, said we had to release the letter publicly for everybody to see to make sure that we could keep this guy behind bars. So you mean to tell me they couldn't have taken this to a judge and showed them privately to say, look, here's the evidence. Let's put this guy behind bars. It's not safe for anybody. No, they had to put it out on the news. All this is a bunch of...
in just minutes. It's not clear when the next hearing will be. The magistrate judge did not set a next date. This will actually go to Judge Eileen Cannon, who overheard the Trump documents case and ultimately dismissed that case. Now, this letter, authorities say, is in Ruth's hand. It states that he was attempting to assassinate the former president and includes an apology for failing to kill Trump while offering a $150,000 bounty for anyone who can finish the job. House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan in Washington says releasing the letter could actually harm the former president by encouraging others to think they could potentially get paid by Ruth. Jordan says the department's decision to broadcast the attempted assassin's bounty on President Trump at the same time that the department is aggressively and unconstitutionally prosecuting President Trump raises significant concern that the department could cause additional harm to occur. Now, Ruth's finances are unknown, but again, he does have a public defender. I asked the Attorney General on Friday about criticism for putting the letter on that public docket, and here's his response. Watch.
Our first job with respect to Ruth was ensuring that he be detained. And when you file a detention motion, the prosecutors have to make the most reasonable judgment they can about what evidence is necessary to ensure detention.
Ryan Ruth could spend the rest of his life behind bars if he's convicted on those charges brought forward by the Justice Department. Emily.
David Spunt, thank you. All right, so Congressman, talk to me about that balancing test, and what do you make of that? So on one hand, we have the Attorney General saying, well, we needed all evidence to keep him detained. This is all about protecting Donald Trump, mitigating the risk against him. Wow. And then you have Jim Jordan and the like from the House Judiciary Committee saying, oh, no. You guys have a strong history of not releasing manifestos. This is just going to inspire copycats. Why now?
Yeah, I think Jim Jordan, the chairman of the Judiciary, has a good point, as does Attorney General Barr, who said this was pretty sensational. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but it really begs the question, was it furthering the case? Did he really need that little piece of evidence? Or was he inciting others at a time when the threat to Donald Trump and his family could it be any higher? I mean, it's just off the charts. So it seemed sensational. It seemed ill-timed. It didn't seem necessary. And I think it was wrong for them to release that part of that manifesto, if you want to call it.
Yeah, and Kayleigh, let's talk about the term necessary that the congressman just used, because there are ways to submit things into evidence without releasing it to the public, right?
Exactly.
So there are many avenues afforded the Attorney General that could have, if needed again for an evidentiary purpose, to protect Donald Trump, to bolster the claim, to leave this guy in detention. He could have done it without releasing it to the public.
Without a doubt. I mean, Bill Barr said there was more than enough evidence to keep Ryan Ruth detained. To your point, Barr pointed out you can redact information that is inflammatory, and Bill Barr said pretty succinctly it served no purpose other than to risk inciting further violence. You know, we've got to know more about these tips that came into the government. There were 4 tips about this individual, and the DOJ and the FBI have discovered a book, a self-published book by Ryan Ruth, where he literally calls for the assassination of Donald Trump. Now, I understand it's easy to be Monday morning quarterback, but we need to know more, and this isn't DOJ, this is more FBI, about the tips that came in and how in the future maybe we can take those tips a little more seriously.
And you know, Rebecca, it sort of reminds me, there have been a lot of celebrities through the years who have publicly called for, frankly, the assassination of President Trump. And they defend it by saying, I didn't mean it, it was comedy, etc. And what we heard, the line from the Secret Service leadership was always, well, is the threat actionable? Essentially, do we take it seriously? And part of that, reassuring the public, was supposed to, on the flip side, let us know that if there was actionable threats, indeed they had identified it. So now we have sort of a suspect FBI and DOJ, a very suspect Secret Service leadership, telling us to trust them. The answer is we don't.
No, we don't trust them, and I still can't get over the fact that we keep talking about the second assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump. I mean, the second one, we know that there are threats to his life out there. We know that there's a lot of people who want him harmed, and we know that the Iranian government wants him harmed and is operating inside the United States. These are continued and pressing threats, and so why this bounty letter needed to be shown, I don't understand. You could even just make the remark that there is a bounty letter without making it so sensationalized. And I agree, pointing out that, you know, my colleague at Hudson Institute, former Attorney General Barr, said that it was, you know, that he was gobsmacked essentially by it. Doesn't make any sense at all. And so I think he's a really good judge of this.
Yeah, good barometer.
I guess my question would be to you, if it's okay, Emily, what is normal? I know you gave us instances of what the options are, but how outside the norm is releasing a letter like this?
There's nothing normal about this Attorney General as it's been operating under this administration. I think that's the answer. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of Kathy Griffin right now, with the severed head photo, and all of the threats that we've sort of, as a society, decided didn't matter so much because they were against Donald Trump. And there has been a drumbeat up to that point. That one perhaps the most visual. And, you know, it came under humor with her. I don't get it. I don't think anybody did. But I'm just wondering, what is the norm when you hear that someone is on someone's target list time and time again? I think it is to extra protection for that person, but also extra protection even in the court. Like if there's a letter that doesn't have to be released that might incite someone else, why in the world would you ever pollute the conversation around that person with that material when you've had visual threats against that person?
Yeah, and now pleading not guilty. Well, that's wasting our tax dollars.
It 100% is. Like, this guy says, no, I wasn't trying to assassinate Donald Trump, even though I had this, you know, this firearm, even though I had, you know, it was stationed for 12 hours at this place, even though it was pointed at the former president. No, I wasn't trying to do that. All is so political. That's what I hate. It's like people's lives are in danger. And I just wish that we would get away from some of this just blatant politics. That's what bothers me. And what's even more is we've got updated news on what's going on with the border after old Kamala Harris decided to make a 19-minute stop. Check this out.
With Dave McCormick running for the Senate in Pennsylvania. It's a very close race there, ladies and gentlemen, and we can very much use that seat. Dave McCormick, it appears that Kamala Harris gave this truly pathetic speech, and she's trying to be Joe Arpaio. Remember him, the sheriff in Arizona? She's now transitioned into Joe Arpaio. And on the same day where she gave that Joe Arpaio speech, we now learn that the Harris-Biden regime have allowed in 500,000 criminals, convicted criminals, including over 13,000 convicted murderers and over 15,000 convicted sex offenders, to roam the streets of Pennsylvania and the rest of the country. Tell me, how has Bob Casey contributed to the security of this nation and the sovereignty of this nation in all the years that he's been in the Senate?
Yeah, Mark, what's happening at the border is a disgrace, and I hold Bob Casey accountable for this. Really, my race is a race between an outsider, someone who's a West Point grad, a combat vet, someone who's created jobs in Pennsylvania, and a career politician who's been too weak and too liberal to stand up for the interests of Pennsylvanians. I've been to the border twice in the last couple years. I've been there more than the border czar and Senator Casey. And what you see there is unbelievable. So I went to Yuma, Arizona a couple months ago. In the middle of the night, 2 in the morning, I'm with the Border Patrol. You're going along this beautiful wall, and the wall just stops. And 300 yards away is a storing area where there's steel stacked that we paid for as taxpayers and paid the labor for.
Golly.
And in the middle of the night, 50 illegal immigrants walk across the border, 5 of them military-age men from Syria, 5 of them Chinese nationals. We have a crisis of epic proportion. These people are pouring across our border. They're doing enormous economic damage. As you said, there's a terrorist, people on the terrorist watch list being released, 15,000 murderers. It's inconceivable. In Pennsylvania alone last year, Mark, we lost 4,000 people from fentanyl. I sat down with some fentanyl families that had lost a child last week. I couldn't get through it. I was choked up. It is devastating, and I want to leave you with a statistic that'll just blow your mind. And Bob Casey has voted against the border wall, against funding for the Border Patrol, against funding for fentanyl, 4 sanctuary cities. But 4,000 fentanyl deaths, 116,000 nationally. Mark, as you remember from Vietnam, 58,000 killed in action in 8 years of war. We had 2 Vietnams last year from fentanyl. We need leadership. We need toughness. We need to go across the border with our military and destroy these fentanyl manufacturing facilities, these distribution facilities. We need to close the border, and we need to send these illegal immigrants home. And we're not going to get that with the weakness of Biden, Harris, Casey, or Harris, Casey. We got to get President Trump back in the White House and a majority in the Senate, and me representing Pennsylvania.
And yet Casey voted for that phony bipartisan bill that would have enshrined 95% of the Biden open border policies, which means fentanyl would continue to come across the border, as well as criminals, murderers, rapists, and the rest. And even worse, they're flying Venezuelan gang members into this country and other people into this country. Has Bob Casey ever gone to the floor of the Senate and even mentioned the names of people who've died from fentanyl? Has he ever mentioned the name of a single woman who's been sold into sex slavery? Does he show any concern whatsoever?
No. And with all this hypocrisy on the part of Biden, Harris, and Casey about the human toll under the Trump administration, what the exploitation of women and children has been devastating under Biden, Harris, and Casey. And Senator Casey has been nowhere on these issues. Senator Casey has supported this amnesty bill, as you said. And this amnesty bill, listen, I went and looked at this compared to any other country in the world. There is no country in the world that allows 2 million people in a year for amnesty, 5,000 a day. It had almost virtually nothing to do with truly securing the border. And now at the height of hypocrisy, Kamala Harris and Bob Casey are saying they're tough on the border. I don't think Pennsylvanians are going to buy that. I think they know the truth. We need strength, not weakness, in the White House and in the Senate.
So, Dave McCormick, if people want to help you in this country and help get you into the Senate, where do they go?
DaveMcCormickPA.com lays out all my positions and the kind of leadership I'll bring, and I'd be grateful and honored to have the support of those watching today.
I wish you all the best, my friend. They're pouring.
I'm telling you this, that the more and more that time goes by, I feel like if people don't see what's actually happening at the border, with the entire just Biden administration, It's like, will they ever see? That's my question, is will they ever see? Because it's as blatant to me as it can get. And then, but this is the one thing though, if this is any telltale sign of what's actually going on, I will say this, that we have somebody by the name of Tulsi Gabbard, who's an independent, who actually comes out and speaks and has aligned with Trump, and I believe that should tell us everything. Check it out.
Because our opportunity is rooted in our responsibility as American citizens to remember that our founders told us that our government exists only with the consent of the governed. That's us. Everything that we are seeing happening now, the weaponization of government entities, the censorship of free speech, the political retaliation against those who have the audacity to criticize those in power. They are throwing everything that they can at us to undermine our democracy because they are terrified of what a free people in a free society will do to uproot them from their power.
Right there.
And bring our interests to the forefront once again of freedom, peace, and prosperity. So I hope you feel hopeful as I do, that as we are surrounded by hate, we confront hate with love. That as we are surrounded by darkness, we confront that darkness with the light of the truth and common sense.
Common sense, y'all.
And that literally, as we are surrounded by warmongers rapidly beating their war drums, we stand strong and speak with clarity and courage for peace.
This is, to me, I don't know about y'all, but Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, Elon Musk, you've got J.D. Vance, Vivek Ramaswamy, Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump. This dream team is what America needs, 100%. Just want to say thank you to everybody that's watching. If you're not subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button so that I can serve you every day with the top breaking news. And just want to say thank you to everybody that has blessed us with a super chat donation. We have Winnie Grinevald. Thank you so much. Show Winnie some love in the chat, everybody. Jennifer Walber, who's a new member of the channel. And just want to say, if you haven't hit the thumbs up, please do so. It really helps to grow the channel. And just want to say thank y'all so much. We are here to serve you. And there's so much news out there. We just want to give you the breaking news. We want to bring you the truth every single day. And to all those, they've been asking me in the chat. So I'm going to put, we do have a email that you can reach out to us if you want. It's truelifenewsyt@gmail.com. I'll put that into the description of the website of the video, truelifenewsyt@gmail.com. So if you want to reach out, it's there. Just want to say thank you to everybody that supports us. We appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.